There's a moment every Antarctic winter when thousands of penguin chicks are left completely alone, not for minutes, for days. Their parents, both of them, simply walk away, into the blizzard, across miles of ice, disappearing into the white until they're just dark specks on the horizon, and then nothing at all. The chicks huddle together in the brutal cold, -40 degrees, winds that can strip the warmth from flesh in seconds. They're covered in down feathers that aren't waterproof. They can't dive, can't hunt, can't survive on their own, and yet their parents leave. It's not abandonment, not in the way we understand it. It's something stranger, something that evolution carved into their biology over millions of years. A behavior so counterintuitive that when scientists first witnessed it, they struggled to explain why any species would do this to its young. Because this isn't about neglect. It's about a choice, a terrible calculation made in one of the most hostile environments on Earth. Stay with your chicks and watch them starve, or leave them in the cold and hope you can make it back in time. This is the story of what happens when survival requires the impossible, and why sometimes love means walking away. To understand why penguins leave their chicks, you first need to understand where they're leaving them. Antarctica isn't just cold. It's a continent built on extremes. During winter, temperatures regularly drop below -50 degrees Celsius. The wind doesn't just blow. It screams across the ice at speeds that can exceed 100 miles per hour. When those winds combine with the cold, the wind chill can kill exposed flesh in under 2 minutes. This is the coldest, driest, windiest place on Earth, and it's where emperor penguins choose to breed. Not on the edges of the continent, not in the relatively sheltered coastal regions where most Antarctic life congregates. Emperor penguins march inland, sometimes dozens of miles across the sea ice, to establish their breeding colonies in the most exposed locations imaginable. They do this in the middle of winter, while every other creature on the continent is either hibernating, migrating, or hunkering down. Emperor penguins are actively reproducing. The females lay their eggs in May and June, the beginning of the Antarctic winter, when conditions are already becoming lethal. It seems like madness, but there's a reason. Emperor penguin chicks take longer to develop than almost any other bird species, about 5 months from egg to fledging. If the adults waited for spring to breed, the chicks wouldn't be ready to enter the water until late summer or autumn. When food becomes scarce and conditions deteriorate again, by breeding in winter, the chicks fledge in summer, when the ocean is rich with krill and fish, when they have the best possible chance of survival. But this strategy comes with a cost. During those 5 months of development, someone needs to feed the chicks. And the only food source is the ocean. The same ocean the colony left behind when they marched inland. Which means one or both parents must make the journey back. Across the ice, through the storms, miles of empty, frozen wasteland where there's nothing to eat, no shelter, no rest. And every day they're gone, their chick is alone in the cold. Here's what makes this even more brutal. When an emperor penguin chick hatches, it weighs less than a pound. It's covered in gray down, fluffy insulation that traps air and provides some warmth. But it's not waterproof. If that down gets wet, the insulation fails. The chick will freeze. So the chicks can't go into the water, can't hunt, can't feed themselves. They're completely dependent on their parents. But the parents can't stay, not both of them, not for long. Here's how the system works. The female lays a single egg in May or June, then immediately transfers it to the male. He balances it on his feet, tucked under a fold of skin called a brood pouch. Then the female leaves, walking back to the ocean to feed. The male stays. For 64 days, he incubates the egg in the middle of winter. No food, no movement, just standing there. Males can lose up to 45% of their body weight during incubation, surviving on nothing but stored energy. When the chick hatches, the male feeds it a nutrient-rich substance from his body. It's enough for a few days. But after that, the real food needs to arrive. The female needs to return from the ocean with fish and krill. She needs to regurgitate it for the chick, and then she needs to take over watching the chick. This is the relay. Back and forth. One parent with the chick, one at the ocean, switching roles every few weeks. But here's the problem. As winter deepens, the sea ice expands. The edge of the ocean, where the penguins can hunt, moves farther and farther away from the colony. What started as a 20-mile walk in May becomes 40 miles, then 60, then more. Each journey takes longer, requires more energy, burns through more of the penguin's fat reserves. And during those journeys, the chick is alone. Now consider what the parents are doing during all this. An adult emperor penguin weighs about 60 to 80 pounds. They have no wings. Their flippers are adapted for swimming, not flying. They can't run. They can only waddle or slide on their bellies across the ice. And they need to cross 60, 70, sometimes nearly 100 miles of frozen emptiness to reach the ocean. In storms that can reduce visibility to zero, in temperatures that would kill an unprotected human in minutes. There are no landmarks. The ice all looks the same, flat, white, featureless in every direction. And yet the penguins navigate it. They find the ocean, hunt, feed, and then somehow find their way back to the exact colony where their chick is waiting. Scientists still don't fully understand how. There's evidence that emperor penguins use the sun's position for navigation. They might also use subtle features in the ice, pressure ridges, variations in surface texture that humans wouldn't notice. But none of that explains the precision. Colonies can contain tens of thousands of penguins. And when a parent returns, they don't just find the colony. They find their specific chick. Out of thousands of nearly identical gray bundles in the crèche, they locate the one that belongs to them. They do this through vocalization. Each chick has a unique call. Each parent has memorized that call. They stand at the edge of the crèche and broadcast their own call. The chick hears it, recognizes it, and calls back. Parent and chick find each other through sound alone. But here's what makes this miraculous. That chick is one voice among thousands. The crèche is a wall of noise. Constant peeping, squawking, overlapping calls from every direction. And somehow, through that chaos, they find each other. The acoustic equivalent of picking out a single conversation in a crowded stadium. Researchers have studied the calls. They're complex, multi-toned, with individual variations that make each one unique. But even understanding that doesn't explain how the penguins process it. It's pattern recognition at an almost impossible level. And it has to work, because if it doesn't, if the parent can't find their chick, or the chick doesn't respond, the chick starves. The parent won't feed someone else's offspring, they won't adopt. The system is ruthlessly specific. They'll search for their own chick, and if they can't find it, they'll leave again, back to the ocean. But sometimes the parents don't make it back in time. Maybe the journey took too long. Maybe they couldn't find enough food. Maybe a storm trapped them on the ice, forcing them to hunker down. While their stored energy dwindled. When that happens, the chick starves. It's not a rare occurrence. Mortality rates for emperor penguin chicks can exceed 50% in bad years. That means half of all chicks die before they fledge. Most of those deaths happen when both parents are away. When the chicks are in the crèche, burning through their own small fat reserves, waiting for food. And here's what makes this truly heartbreaking. When a parent returns and finds their chick dead, they don't try again. They don't breed again that season. They mourn, in whatever way penguins experience grief, and then they leave. Some scientists have observed parents standing over their dead chick for hours, not moving, not calling, just standing. Eventually, they walk away. But this raises a larger question. Why do emperor penguins breed in winter at all? Yes, the timing ensures chicks fledge in summer, but the cost is staggering. The energy expenditure, the mortality rate, the sheer physical punishment both parents endure. There must be other strategies. Other species manage to breed without this risk. Adelie penguins breed in spring, chinstraps breed on the peninsula where conditions are less extreme. Other seabirds wait until summer entirely. So why do emperor penguins do this? The answer seems to be that they're locked in. Committed to a strategy that worked in the past but may be becoming untenable, because the sea ice is changing. Antarctica is warming. On average, the extent of winter sea ice is decreasing. Its stability is becoming unpredictable. In some years, the ice breaks up too early. Colonies established on stable ice suddenly find themselves on floating platforms. Chicks that aren't ready to swim are forced into the water. Most drown. In other years, the ice extends too far. The distance to the ocean becomes so great that parents can't make the round trip in time. Chicks starve waiting for food that's just too far away. Emperor penguins evolve for consistency, for an Antarctic winter that followed predictable patterns, ice that expanded and contracted on a reliable schedule. But that consistency is disappearing, and the penguins can't adapt fast enough. Here's what keeps researchers up at night. Emperor penguins are not rare. There are hundreds of thousands of them, dozens of colonies scattered around Antarctica. But their entire breeding strategy depends on conditions that are becoming increasingly variable. And unlike other species, they can't just shift to a different season. Their reproductive biology is locked into the winter cycle, which means they're vulnerable in a way most species aren't. If the ice continues to change, if winters become too short, or storms become too severe, or the ocean moves too far, emperor penguins don't have a backup plan. They can't breed twice in a season, can't delay until spring, can't relocate to more hospitable environments. They're specialists, perfectly adapted to a very narrow set of conditions. And when those conditions change, specialists die. Scientists are watching this happen in real time. Some colonies are declining, others are stable, a few are even growing. But the trend is clear. The environment that created emperor penguins is disappearing. And the question is, can they evolve fast enough? Evolution requires time, generations, selection pressure that gradually shifts traits in a population. But the changes in Antarctica are happening over decades, maybe a century. That's not long enough for evolution to produce major adaptations. Not for a species that takes 5 years to reach sexual maturity and produces 1 chick per season. So we're left with a different question, not whether emperor penguins will evolve, but whether they'll persist long enough for evolution to matter. There's something profoundly unsettling about watching an animal do everything right and still lose. Emperor penguins are extraordinary survivors. They've mastered one of the harshest environments on the planet. They've developed behaviors, the relay system, the crèche, the navigational precision that border on miraculous. And yet, they're fragile. Because survival isn't about being strong. It's about fitting your environment. And when that environment changes faster than you can adapt, strength becomes irrelevant. Right now, somewhere in Antarctica, a penguin chick is huddling in a crèche, burning calories it can't replace, waiting for a parent who's crossing ice that extends farther than it should, who's hunting in waters that are warmer, less predictable, less full of the krill and fish that used to thrive there. Maybe the parent makes it back in time. Maybe they don't. The chick doesn't know. It just waits, because waiting is all it can do. And that's the thing about evolution. It doesn't care about fairness, doesn't care about effort or nobility or the elegance of a survival strategy. It only cares about what works. And if the environment changes enough, what once worked perfectly can become a death sentence. Emperor penguins aren't symbols. They're not metaphors. They're living animals doing what millions of years of selection pressure programmed them to do. But the world they were programmed for is disappearing, and we're left watching them walk into blizzards, leaving their chicks behind, trusting in a system that's beginning to fail. Not because they're doing anything wrong, but because the ice beneath them is melting, and evolution moves too slowly to notice.